All right, we will go ahead and begin. Hello, everyone. Now that you're all checked in, I wanted to introduce myself. My name is McKenna Meisenbach, and I'm a new graduate assistant for AAP. And today's session is we are doing recommendation letter magic with grad school edition with Princeton University. And we have the amazing Dr. Joseph Lewis today. This session is being recorded, and we will be taking questions at the very end, once Dr. Lewis has finished. If you do not mind, if you guys could please list all of your questions in the meeting chat, and I will do my best to answer them and get through them. But without further ado, I would like to let Dr. Lewis take the floor. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me okay? Let's do a
Yes.
thumbs up. We can hear. Okay, perfect,
Yes.
perfect. Welcome to Recommendation Letter Magic Grad School Edition. I am Joseph Lewis, the Associate Dean for Access, Diversity, and Inclusion here in the graduate school. My PhD is in English language and literature, and I started off at Princeton actually teaching in the writing program. And I've also taught 10 years at the college level, higher ed level, taught English for 10 years. So a lot of my presentations deal with writing. There will be a writing activity, so get ready. I'm really excited. If you have any questions, you feel compelled in the middle of the presentation, just put your hand up. I like conversation. The PowerPoint slides are a suggestion. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. So for today's session, we want to think about how we intentionally build academic and professional networks and distinguish between an advisor and a mentor. We want to learn how to ask for exceptional letters of recommendation and find mentors and advisors that will help shape your academic journey. And all of this is connected to developing tools around decoding the hidden curriculum. So, one of the things I want to start off with is finding the right program. And this is not just finding the right program at Princeton, but this is finding the right graduate program more broadly, more generally. So, the topics or the information that I discussed today can be applied to graduate school applications more broadly. And then I'll signal when I'm talking about things that are specific to Princeton. So this page right here is specific to Princeton. What we do is that our graduate school, and this is one of the things you want to find out about the graduate school, is that where you're applying, is everything going right through their department? Is there a sort of central location that all the departments go through? At Princeton, there's a central location that all of the departments go through. So even though all the departments have their own sort of requirements and deadlines, all of their applications come through the graduate school. So when you go to the graduate school's website at Princeton, you will find a field of study page, and you can look at all of the program offerings. And I always recommend when you begin your graduate school journey is to go to that landing page that gives you sort of introductory information about the department. At Princeton, we all have directors of graduate studies who are typically faculty members, and they are the ones that are directing the graduate program. And we also have the graduate program administrator who's running all of the administrative aspects of the program. So if you have questions about applications, you have questions about visitations, you have questions about your recommendations, reach out to the grad program administrator. We're going to talk a little bit today about like why would you reach out to the grad program administrator versus the graduate versus the director of graduate studies in a little bit. But make sure that you have an understanding of the program, that you have an understanding of the requirements. One of the major differences about graduate school, applying to graduate school versus applying to undergrad, is that when you're applying to graduate school, it's not always just about the name. It is about the program. You want to make sure that you are the right fit. And when I say the right fit, I mean, does your research align with the research that is being produced out of the department? How are you demonstrating your knowledge of the research that's being produced out of the department? So when you're an undergrad, you apply to, the top school, the school that based off of the name, right? But when you're in graduate school, it's much more focused on the program. So make sure that you read the introductory information. Go to the website, and find the information that you need. Can I just, my Zoom screen just went away. Can someone just let me know if you're still there?
Yes, we're here.
Okay, perfect, perfect. So for your recommendation letters, so this is specific to Princeton, but a lot of the recommendation letters in other departments outside of Princeton follow typically these requirements. So, oops, let me come back. So first, you want your faculty, your letters must be written by faculty members or other individuals that are well acquainted with your work. When I say your work, I mean your research, not your community service, not your sort of student engagement, not your student activism. There are a lot of people in your orbit that can attest to your integrity, your tenacity, your resilience, but you want recommenders who can attest to your research. One of the things that I would do when I wrote recommendation letters for students is the strongest recommendation letters were the ones that I had students in multiple classes because I could talk to their growth over time, right? Register recommenders as early as possible to allow sufficient time for submission. If you are applying for graduate school this fall, you should have a sense or you should have confirmation at this point who your recommenders are. This is something that you want to do over the summertime as you build those relationships, whether they be through summer research programs or undergraduate research conferences. Make sure that you're making those connections early, building those relationships, and that the ask and the confirmation is solidified by the summer because your professors, faculty members are most likely going to that's going to be the thing that they organize for the beginning of the year. Most deadlines come up around November and December and January. So if you get them early in the year, you have everything mapped out, you give them enough time to submit. An application does not need to be submitted in order to register recommenders. This is specific to Princeton, but you see this a lot in other institutions. Don't sort of say that I can't submit my application until my recommender submit. Those are separate things. You want to make sure that your recommender knows the portal, has all the information they need to submit, and then you submit your application separately. Ask a recommender if they can write a good or great or a strong letter of recommendation. This is your investment into your future. Do not take it passively. Do not take it lightly. You want to make sure that you ask a recommender who can write a strong letter. So advocate for yourself. Think about what the program needs are, the requirements of the program, and then ask yourself for, as a faculty member, or ask the faculty member that you're asking to write the recommendation, can they speak to this specific aspect of your application? Can they speak to your growth in this research? This is what makes a strong letter a letter versus a just sort of just a typical generic letter. Talk about when you're developing your relationship and you ask for that letter, talk about the goals that your career goals, your professional goals, the experiences that you've cultivated. Follow up with reminders. It is okay to send gentle reminders and facilitate their work. So make sure that you provide all of the information that they need. You don't want your recommenders thinking. You want your recommenders focused on how they are going to celebrate you in the recommendation. You don't want them to worry about where do I have to submit, what's the deadline. All of that should be laid out for them. So even when you are reaching out, it's okay to ask someone to write multiple recommendations for multiple programs. And so you want to lay out all of those programs, the deadlines, and all of the submission portal links that they have to use to submit their recommendation. So I want us to pause for a second and I want us to do a quick sort of free writing activity. And the writing you can write on a piece of paper with a pen. You can kind of just think about this. You can provide examples in the chat, but I want you to think about 5 to 7 people who are in your community. So, who would be people that would write a recommendation for you? Someone that could attest to your talent, someone that could vouch for your ability to pursue a graduate degree. So, take about a minute or two and jot down a few names, think about a few names that you would have write a recommendation. Okay, do we have a few names? I can't see people's faces, so I'm going to assume that we have a few names. Okay, so as you think about those names, I want you to think about, okay, who can I actually, or who actually knows my research? Is this person a mentor or is this person an advisor? And what is the difference? And which person should I be asking to write a recommendation? So you can ask a mentor and an advisor to write a recommendation, but you still need to know the difference between the two, right? So, as an advisor, those are the people that are usually connected to your home department. They provide direction on course selection, departmental requirements, and they might direct a dissertation or thesis. So, your advisor, in one sense, might be making sure that you're hitting all of the outcomes for your degree, may not necessarily be your maybe your advisor could also be your thesis advisor. That's a faculty member, right? So they could be a faculty member that you've had a class with that they are advising your path in your undergraduate journey. So for instance, in undergrad, I did undergrad at Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia, and I was an English major. And my British literature teacher was also my advisor, and she saw my progress all the way through from junior year through senior year. And I had her write a recommendation, and I took her for 2 different classes, right? So I had her write a recommendation for me when I applied to graduate school. Mentors, on the other hand, are usually self-selected, right, by students. They are interested in both your professional and personal growth. Mentors can be the people that let you know which are the best people to ask for recommendations. Mentors are people you can call in the middle of the night and ask them about personal issues, right? So a mentor is not necessarily always the best person that can speak to your research, but they are more so the person that is going to work in alliance with you to support your overall growth. Sometimes a mentor can be an advisor. For instance, my dissertation advisor started off as my advisor, but our relationship developed over time, and now he has become a mentor. And he's someone that I ask about advice around just more broader things in life, but then also I ask him questions about my career pathway. So, as you think about the differences or the distinction between these 2 points, I want you to go back and think about who did you write down as your community? And can you categorize those folks? So, who is more of an advisory role? An advisor can be a faculty member. And then who is an actual mentor? So, take a few minutes and jot down, or I should say, delineate between the people that you wrote down in one list, create an advisor list and a mentor list. Okay. So, we'll have some time at the end of the session to talk about your observations in connection to the differences between the advisor and the mentor. And there'll be an opportunity for you to ask questions about specific people, because I know that this question impacts people differently based on your discipline. So we'll have some time to answer and discuss those questions. So, as you're thinking about preparation for this year, you want to, and what I've done is that I've highlighted the important parts that are connected to recommendations. So, like I said before, you want to reach out to possible recommenders as early as possible. When I say June and August, this is sort of last minute, right? So, even if you are a junior right now and you are thinking about folks that could be in your recommendation pool. You want to reach out to them as early as possible. And then you want to talk to faculty about programs that you are applying to. When I did my master's degree and then when I was applying to my PhD program, I had a literary theory professor who we had a great conversation about why the PhD program that I was thinking about would be the perfect fit for me. And then he was able to discuss with me folks that he knew in the department, how my work aligned. So also create an opportunity for conversations with possible faculty members or possible recommenders about the actual program. When you are in the fall, in terms of networking, which we'll unpack a little bit more in our discussion, is attend as much as possible, both virtual and in person, as many departmental visitations as you can. Reach out to graduate students in the program that you're applying to. I can't tell you how much of a great resource that graduate students can be. I learned about sort of the politics of the department, which professors are doing what type of work, which type of professors would be interested in my work. Confirm in the fall, you want to make sure that you have confirmed your recommenders. Like I said before, Most of the deadlines are in November, in December, in January. So you want to make sure that your recommenders at the beginning of the application cycle, which is typically late summer, you want to make sure that they have all of the information that they need and the links that they need to submit the recommendation. I'm the type of person that I will encourage students to send me gentle reminders. I don't mind it when students provide as much information as possible. So I will encourage sometimes students to write up what I call a celebratory letter that goes into these are all of my accomplishments. And then what I'll do from there is I'll select from there and then bring that together around sort of my observations around that student's growth. So the recommendation process is not just the ask, but it's a you're developing a relationship with this person so that you can enhance, not just so that you can enhance the recommendation, but you're developing this relationship because most 9 times out of 10, you and that other person's work aligns, right? And you're able to learn from them just as much as they can learn from you. So it's not just about the I'm asking for the recommendation, but more so, I respect this person. This person can talk about my growth. This person is highly aware of my research, and they also are able to see what I want to do, and they can be a strong advocate for that. So we will continue in our on our team. What we do is that we have discussions about these topics all the way from overview of Princeton, application essays for STEM students, application essays for students, that's humanities and social sciences, letters of recommendation, also networking for success. So we will have a series of virtual workshops that take place over the fall. So please come back and visit us in our virtual workshop series that will go into these topics throughout the fall. And you can use this. I'll have a QR code that you can register for that you'll be part of our perspective community, and then you'll get updates from our Princeton Perspective newsletter that will give you the dates for the upcoming virtual workshops. I want to remind you all that everything is going to be all right because you got this. You are in the right place right now. If you are in this session, that means you are taking the first step in a positive direction toward your graduate degree. This is going to be a daunting and challenging process, but it's also a very positive. It can be very positive, and it can also you can grow so much from this process. One of the things, and I'm sure you all have heard this, is that the PhD graduate school process is a marathon. When you don't get in or when you don't get the information that you want, remember it's not a rejection, it's information. We can talk a little bit more in the session today about when I applied for grad school and how I handled rejection, because it's going to come. Because graduate school is a state of rejection. You're going to always be rejected in terms of papers or research projects. And the idea is that you learn from that and apply that learning to the next sort of iteration of that application. So please, please, please reach out to us. This is our team in the graduate school. If you scan this QR code right here, you will be put on our mailing list and you will get information about our virtual workshops, and information about graduate school. And again, just some of those tips around how to um, write strong applications for graduate school more broadly. So we really look forward to connecting with you over the fall. I'm going to end here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to open up the floor for questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Lewis. This was an awesome session. One of the first questions we have is, do mentors also have to be faculty members?
Yes. Let me tell you about why they should be a faculty member. You want your recommender to be in conversation with the research that you're producing, right? So if I say that I study 20th century American literature, or if I say that I'm studying this particular organism, right? You want the recommender to be able to vouch for you because they have credibility within the sort of academic and scholarly community. Recommenders or faculty members will look at recommendations and say, huh, I know that person. I know that person. Huh, this person who just wrote this groundbreaking research is recommending this student. So not only do you want them to be a faculty member, but you want them to be in conversation either specifically with your research or they can be in conversation more broadly, right? So, like, I think about the student that is applying to maybe a PhD program in electrical engineering, but they have a computer scientist writing their recommendation. That's totally fine, right? But you want that recommender to know what's happening in the field. I had a student once. We had a group of McNair scholars come to Princeton. This was like 2 years ago. And one student asked, and their director was there, their McNair director was there. And one student asked, well, can my McNair director write a recommendation? And I said, well, that's a little bit tricky because it's your director, and your director they know all of like sort of your, like sort of the larger sort of experience, your experiences in McNair, but they can't sort of speak to the research. And then the director raised their hand and said, "Well, actually, I have a PhD in biology. I taught X amount of years, and I'm conversant in the field." So yes, right? So it's like it's not that because they're a director they can't write it, or because they serve in your life in this capacity they can't. But you want to think, when they get that recommendation, will the faculty be able to say, "Huh, I get, this person," and even if they don't know the person, they're familiar with the institution. Oh, I know the type of work that comes out of this department. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you so much for answering that question. The next question we have is it okay to ask someone for a letter of recommendation for more than one occasion? And if so, how would you go about asking them?
Yes, it is. So this is where I come back and I say the first thing is develop a relationship, right? Whether that be the entry point of that relationship is I read your paper on this idea of like these molecules, and my research aligns this way. I've read your book on this theory, and so it could be multiple ways as entry points to develop that sort of connection and that relationship. Now, when it comes to multiple recommendations for multiple opportunities, I always say first, test the waters. So when I was applying to graduate school for the first time, I didn't have as much experience as I did, and my relationships with my faculty were professional relationships. I'd had classes with them. And so, what I did at the beginning of the cycle was that I reached out to faculty members and I listed every single program that I was applying to and every single deadline, right? And so they're able to say, I can do this or not, right? 9 times out of 10, they'll say that they can do them all. Over time, your relationship is going to grow. Like, so a few of those faculty members I stayed in contact with through graduate school, stayed in contact as I was trying to build a publication record, right? And so sometimes opportunities are going to come up as you are in the program that you didn't account for at the beginning. And that's when you're able to, with those relationships, you're able to reach out to someone, reach out to a recommender and say, hey, there's this opportunity that's coming up. The deadline is in 2 weeks. Are you able to do it? Completely, letting them know that if they can't, you understand, but you wanna create the idea or communicate to your recommender not only that you need this recommendation, but their impact or their sort of wisdom has made an impact on your progress. And if you can communicate, as the more you communicate that, the more they're going to want to make sure that you succeed. So I would say start off by testing the waters with, being very structured, organized, give them all the information, give them updates on your success, remind them that their work impacts and continues to impact your success, and you continue to build that relationship. And you'll be in a situation like me back in, I think this was 2018. I had to ask one of my mentors for a recommendation, and the deadline was the next day. And he was saying, of course, I'll do it for you, right? But it's about building those relationships and maintaining those relationships.
Thank you so much for answering that question. The next question, I think you have touched on it a little bit, but maybe if you could please elaborate a little more. The next question was, how was your application slash recommender experience?
It was tough in the beginning because I did not know what I was doing. I do this work now because no one was guiding me. And it's just so my first so back then, like back in the day, we used to have to do um uh the application fee, like everything was snail mail. So I mean, we were like mailing in checks, right? And so I was so overwhelmed as an undergrad applying to master's programs because I didn't know how to navigate that space. So I would go to professors and I would ask very passively, can I have this recommendation? Not even knowing what I was asking for. I just knew that they had to write a recommendation. I didn't even know what went into a recommendation. I just knew that they had to write something. And I remember one moment as an undergrad that I got so um, nervous about a deadline, and I didn't know how deadlines worked, that I mailed a possible recommender postage fees because I was just I had no idea. I was just thinking, I will pay for you to, which did not look good at all, right? It's like, are you paying me to write a recommendation or are you paying for the postage fees? So I've learned over time, right? Sort of recommendations are a genre of writing, right? And once you are able to understand the genre of writing and where you fit in it, for instance, right? This recommender is going to talk about my research in this area. This recommender is going to talk about how I overcome sort of challenges in the lab. This recommender is going to talk about how my publication record is stellar, right? And so the more you have that awareness of what's happening in the recommendation, the more you can sort of take control over the process, and it becomes an engagement with a future colleague. So over time, for me, it's just been trial and error. I've applied to, man, I think I've been through maybe with master's degree and PhD, maybe 3 to 4 cycles. So I've learned a lot over time.
Thank you so much also for answering that question. Our next question is, for all of my recommendations, they sent directly to the website where we submit the applications. So if I need to apply again in the following cycle, should I get new recommendation letters?
Good question. Um, it depends. It depends on your growth. So you might have over that period of time connected with a professor that you all are just vibing on the exact same level. This person is helping you write this seminar paper, and they're just a perfect fit, right? On the other hand, what you don't want to do, what I would recommend not to do is to say, I'm going to keep all of my recommenders and I'm not going to update them with any information. So it's okay to have all the same recommenders, but you want to make sure that they update the letter and you want to share with them the updates that have happened on your path, your journey. And again, how have they made an impact? Their class continues to impact you every step of the way, right? So update them. So it's okay to use the same recommenders from before, but you can also change it up if you want. But the whole point is to be intentional, right? It's because this person can speak to this area of my scholarship.
Thank you so much for answering that question as well. Does anyone else have any more questions for Dr. Lewis? You can feel free to raise your hand or drop them in the chat. Oh, we do have one more question, a follow-up. It says to follow up on my earlier question, which the earlier question was, do mentors also have to be faculty mentors? The follow-up question was to follow up on my earlier question, can they be faculty mentors at other universities if I say I am a research assistant in their lab?
Yes. So my understanding of the question, I'm going to kind of make sure that I understand it and I'm going to put it in my own words and let me know if I'm wrong. So let's say, for instance, you did a summer research program at Princeton. Can you ask, and you were sort of a research assistant for that faculty member in this summer research program? Yes, you can ask them for a recommendation. One of the things that one question that tends to come up more in STEM than in humanities is, can I ask if I'm on sort of a research team, can I ask sort of the lab director of that team to write a recommendation or the postdoc to write a recommendation? I always say you want to get the faculty member who's directing the postdoc to write the recommendation. Again, think about, and even with this great question right here, in terms of the research assistant in someone's lab, you want to think about the person that's writing the recommendation, sort of their credibility as well. So again, is this person that's running the lab, they're a faculty member, they're published, they're having a conversation with the scholars that you are going to one day start enter in that conversation as well.
Thank you so much for answering that as well, Dr. Lewis. We'll wait a little bit to see if anyone has any more questions. But in the meantime, we are approaching towards the end of today's session. And to respect everyone's time, we would like to go ahead and conclude the session at this time, unless anyone does have any last minute questions. Dr. Lewis, do you care to share your email in the chat if so students could follow up with any more questions?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, please feel free to reach out. We have a team here that we have two assistant deans. One is focused on STEM. One is focused on humanities and social sciences. So please feel free to reach out. We'll get you connected to the right folks.
Yes, Dr. Lewis, thank you so much for coming and talking with us today. This was super informational and extremely helpful for us students. And thank you, students, also for being so engaging and asking amazing questions. Again, if you guys have any questions for Dr. Lewis, like he said, please reach out. He's there to help you guys. And Dr. Lewis, again, thank you so much for talking. For the students that are still here with us, if you don't mind to please fill out the post-event survey. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the AAP team. And I dropped that information in the chat for you guys as well. But please, everyone, thank you so much for coming. And Dr. Lewis, again, thank you so much for running this talk today.
Thank you. I hope to see you all.